Welcome to Vitality, Women Leading Audaciously. Today, our guest is Jessie. I'm so delighted to have her on the show. She is innovative, she's powerful, she is breaking boundaries and all kinds of preconceived thoughts and industries, mind you. And just warm welcome to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about, your journey and how you got here and just whatever comes to you that's relevant to share today.
Sure. So, I kind of always like to start with, growing up as a kid, and I feel like that kind of sets the foundation in life for the things that are available to you as you grow up. So, I grew up with a lower to middle class family. My mom worked at stores like Kmart, Walmart, Circle K, and my dad was an electrician. And they were very old school, and they didn't go to college. They didn't really put much emphasis on college or anything. And so, growing up through school, I always knew college was going to be on my own if I wanted to go, right? But whenever you're growing up in the 80s and 90s, that's one thing they just harped onto. What do you want to be when you grow up? What college are you going to go to? What program are you going to get? So I graduated with 6 scholarships from high school to attend college. Yeah, that was really great. However, because my living circumstances has changed at that time with things with my parents, they got a divorce and things kind of happened that made my home life very unstable. And so I wasn't able to go to college. I actually had to go to work, and I rented a room from this lady, and I worked at McDonald's. So by the time I was 17, I was already kind of taking on debt. I already worked at McDonald's full time. I paid for a room, I paid for my car and insurance, and that's really all I could afford. So college just was not an option for me at that time. And fast forward a little bit, I had been dating someone since I was 16. He was my high school boyfriend, and once I turned 18, his mom said I could move in with her because it was a weird kind of situation. The room I was renting, I could move in with her and him if we got married. So I got married at 18, and by that time, he had wanted to join the military, and my focus was more on him and his career. And I had my son at 20 and my daughter at 22,
Mm.
and we lived in England at that time. He was in the military. And when my daughter was 4 months old, something happened in our marriage that no matter where I was not going to stand for that. And so that essentially meant taking my kids and going back to Florida with no place to live again.
Mm.
So lived in a little hotel for a little bit until I found a job. And I found a job making $12 an hour. And I worked my way up to an executive assistant and was making $15 an hour. It was pretty good, And daycare ate up most of that, but that was just kind of like how things were. And I asked the owner of the company if I could get off early on Tuesdays and Thursdays so I could start going to college. And so I started night classes, and I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years. But by that time, so I was 26 at that time, by that time my scholarships had ran out. So I had to pay for school. And I racked up $65,000 in student loan debt, but I did graduate from the University of Central Florida. I have a degree
Congratulations.
in, thank you. It was hard work because I
Yeah.
worked full time. I had two little kids. They were 2 and 4, and only 2 years apart. And juggling that and taking a extra hard course load because I wanted to graduate quickly. I didn't want to, span it out. Uh, so it was very long and grueling, but I was so proud of myself because I finally did it and I got that college
Mm.
degree. So I went out in the world thinking things were just going to change and I was going to be offered all these jobs that college degrees promise. And lo and behold, the only job I could get was an executive assistant, which was the exact same job I had been working. And it was just very frustrating. I got a little raise. I was $18 an hour. Um, Somewhere around there. That's why I ended up 17, or started off at 15, then ended up at 18 for how long I worked there. But it was just, it's frustrating. You put yourself in debt and you do all the things that people say you need to do, and then you get out and it's very frustrating. So I ended up where I'm at today, which is the owner of my company, which is Inspired Insurance Solutions, by accident, honestly. So we're going to kind of rewind just back just a couple years to 2016. I had worked my way up in my career into marketing. So I was the director of marketing for this company. I was making pretty good money, $45,000 a year, at least I thought it was. And they called me into the conference room one day and they just let me go. And my kids are older now, they're like 13 and 15, but it was that same like feeling of just like, oh, gosh, I've given so much and I get so little in return. So at that point in time, I went on unemployment and food stamps, and unemployment in the state of Florida is $250 a week.
Wow.
That's $1,000 a month to live off of. So I was in panic mode and sent my resume out, you know, went on a couple interviews, never got called back. It's very competitive. People are willing to work for very little, especially new college grads. They're very willing to work for very little. And so by my fifth month, I was panicking. Just, I had one more month left, and I was already 5 months behind on bills, and it was it was scary. So I took a job in insurance sales. I always make a joke. I always say against my will, because I really didn't want to do that. I really felt like sales was below me. I went to
Mm,
college, I did
mm.
all these things, and
Yeah.
I ended up being really good at it. And I ended up owning, because I was very embarrassed when I first started, because like I said, I felt it was below me. So I had to go through a huge mindset shift that commission only does not mean, no stability. What it actually means is no glass ceilings. No one telling you how much you're worth. And it was huge for me because I had been so against sales and commission only and everything. So I just hit my 5-year anniversary since that time in my life, and my company, we're on track to write about $45 million in annualized volume this year, which is huge. Uh,
Mm.
I
Oh
have
my
agents.
gosh.
I have agents nationwide, so I employ, and that's a loose term because they're all 1099, but I train and mentor and everything more than 100 agents nationwide. I have a staff of, because I just hired three, so I have 4 employees plus me, so it's 5. So I have a staff of 5 that kind of handles and does everything. And I got picked up by a publisher in March, so I'm authoring a book called Soul Beneficiary: The Good, Better, Best Guide to Selling Insurance,
Mm.
and it goes through everything that anyone would want to know about insurance, which I know to the outside is very boring, but it comes with a companion workbook that shows people how to shift their mindset and do that too. And
Mm.
my biggest thing now really is not, I could be flashy and say all the cool things I've done or whatever, but my biggest thing now is I have the stability for my children. My daughter works for me. My son, he's a little stubborn. He will. I know he will. He's out doing his thing in the real world or whatever. But, and I was able to buy me and my kids our first home.
Oh.
I was able to become completely debt free. I paid off my student loans in one
Mm.
fell swoop. They had haunted me for 10 years,
Sure.
deferring them for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's just transformational what this industry can do for someone that has drive and has a why.
When you say this industry, you mean insurance sales or sales in general that are commission based?
Sales in general.
Yeah.
Sales in general, the insurance is a unique industry though because it's the number one industry in the world that creates the most billionaires. So the reason that sets it apart is because it has what's called residual income based
Right.
on how much you do, and not even real estate offers that. So the one thing I always say, and I told you I'm a national speaker, I'm on tour, right? The one thing I always say at these conferences, and they're mainly geared towards people looking to get into the industry, is that I wish I had known about it sooner. And I feel like trades like these, like insurance or real estate or mortgage broker or anything like that, they're not talked about in school. What's talked about is going to college and getting a degree, which doesn't always pan out and doesn't always provide stability.
Right. No, absolutely. More often than not. And I think our kids are actually waking up to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to see there isn't any ROI. But before we go on that tangent, I just want to acknowledge your story. I mean, I had no idea. That's incredible what you've
Thank
created
you.
for yourself and your family and the stability. So many women out there especially ones that are listening, are where they are, but they're trying to be more. And maybe a lot of them, not maybe, a lot of them are wanting to shift their career and they
Mm-hmm.
don't know which direction to go in. And they're in that panic that you were just describing. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? And how do I make it happen? And you are the epitome of resilient.
Thank you.
And what I would call audacious, because when I say women leading audaciously, what I really mean is, we're courageous enough to try and fail and try again until we succeed.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, that's what I had done. I had I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And throughout the years of, working the administrative assistant jobs and going to school, I had multiple businesses. I had a candle business. I made soaps. I always had side hustles. At one point in time, I worked for a doctor's office and at the front desk receptionist, $10 an hour. And the owner was like very gracious and kind of just was like, yeah, use the front desk for whatever. So I put my soaps up there,
Mm.
but I also would dip pretzels in chocolate on the weekends and like put sprinkles on them and then wrap them up in a really nice cellophane bag with a bow and sell them for $4,
Mm.
knowing they cost me like 30 cents to make. But I always kind of had that mindset of what can I do to bring additional income to my family. And I just wish, though, the one thing I kind of just wish I knew about this industry way sooner. I had no clue. I had no clue about how much money there is in this sector, residual income. I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah, that's really critical. And for those of you who are listening, I think some people think that there's a lot of red tape with insurance. It's not very inspiring, but
Hmm.
you've made it inspiring, actually. Because tell us about the book that's just about ready to hit the shelves.
Sure. So my book is called Soul Beneficiary, and that's SOUL, not just SOLE. And the inspiration for that book is my sister. I grew up with her. She was 5 years younger than me.
Mm.
She passed away from cancer in January.
I'm so
And
sorry.
thank you. And that was really difficult to watch. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And when she was placed on hospice, I flew home to everyone lives there now is Illinois. I didn't grow up there, but I call it home because everybody lives there now. So I flew there, and whenever someone's on hospice, they're on a lot of pain medication. It's very hard to kind of get through to them because they're very
Yeah, they're
out
out
of
of
it,
it.
right?
Yeah.
But we did have a good 4 minute heart to heart where I actually got to talk to her. And she told me that this year there's going to be a lot of new opportunity coming to me and that I need to say yes and I need to try new things. And back in January, right? So 11 months ago, I simply just did insurance and that's still a lot. I was very busy. I run a huge team. I have, an agency, but I would have never thought of I'm really going to go in all these other different directions. And in March, I got approached by a publisher, and
Mm.
they had heard about this Good, Better, Best training that I've been doing now for years, and they wanted me to write a book on it. And then out of that came this inspirational workbook that goes with it. And then out of that came the clothing line that I'm doing. But Soul Beneficiary really is about how to start with nothing and kill it in the insurance industry. It walks people step by step through with even what to say to clients and how to build up your book of business and how do you do marketing and do all of those things. But the biggest thing is the mindset shift that someone needs to go through. And that can apply to everybody.
Yeah.
As women, I feel like we have a lot of blockages. We have a lot of limiting beliefs, or I
Yeah.
can't do that, or I'm not going
Yeah.
to be good at that.
Yeah.
That's not me. I don't see myself doing that, right? And we
Hmm.
tell her these things because they really just come from fear
Yeah.
of failure or something, right?
Or
And
disbelief that we're worthy or that we can do it, and
exactly. And the workbook kind of just walks people through that, and it walks people through addressing those excuses and limiting beliefs and procrastination and things like that and turning it into what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself? Let's come up with a business plan. Let's write these things down. And it walks people through step by step on how to change their mindset and come up with a business plan for whatever business they want to do.
Love it. Wow, that's so exciting. So in the show notes, we're going to have the link, but tell us where people can find this book, and this workbook, because I think you were saying it's better to have it in print than as a PDF downloadable file, which I agree.
It
All the
is.
workbooks I have that I've downloaded have not been as fully completed as the ones that have been bound.
Exactly. So it's going to be available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and what's Books a Million and Walmart. And you can sign up for the newsletter at soulbeneficiary.com, and you'll get access to specials and things like that. And then, of course, there will be downloadable areas where people can download a chapter or a module or things like that, and that will be on jessiepark.com.
Oh, so exciting. And I just really want to share my condolences with you. It's so hard. I don't know what I would do if I lost my sister, but I've had family members who have passed away from cancer, and it really changes the way I view the world and the
It does.
preciousness of it. It's
Yeah, it really does. And, while we're on that subject, not to really harp on something so sad for so long, but one of the things about being financially independent, which is something I'd never had in my life before, right? But funeral services cost a lot of money, and I was so happy that I was able to actually do that. And she
yeah.
has two kids, help take care of
Oh,
them and provide for them. Whereas before,
wow.
with my administrative assistant jobs and stuff, I don't even know if I would have even been able to fly up for the funeral or
Right.
anything,
Oh my
So it's
gosh, I have
just,
chills. Yeah, financial independence is so huge
mhm,
and I also feel it and sense it in the way you speak and your body language. It's like there is stability there.
mhm,
And it's so hard for women just to get out of overwhelm, and because there's this frenetic energy of like, how am I going to manage it all? And so you've had to balance. You've had, when your kids were younger, especially when you were a single mom, what did you use? What tools and techniques did you use? So you avoided burnout, you avoided the disease. Most women that do what you do at some point, like, have to stop, but
yeah.
you didn't have to stop. So what tools did you use to maintain your vitality and balance?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things that has helped me, and it may sound cliche because I feel like a lot of people talk about it, but I used goaling and time blocking and visualization, like vision boards, right?
D
So
goaling, D.
goaling, just regular goaling.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So yeah, so you write down short and long-term goals.
Hmm.
So and you hang them up and you look at them every day. So that way you can remember exactly why you're doing it.
Yeah.
What are you driving? Why do you really want this? Why do you want to finish this so bad? And so that's kind of what I've always done. So whenever I was in college and working full time, I would write down, make my children proud, be able to get a better job to provide for them. And those were my main goals. My main driving force was my kids and
Mm.
having a good family life for them so they didn't ever have to feel
Yeah.
isolated or alone in the world.
Yeah. Or have that financial insecurity that maybe you were brought up with,
Yeah,
which, you've broken that generational
I have.
limitation. It's
I
pretty
have.
huge. For a huge gift to give your kids. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
I don't think they quite know it yet, but
No, that's okay. They don't have to. It's
yeah,
like, it's embedded. It's something
yeah.
that's, really, it doesn't have to be seen, but it's known. I mean,
Hmm.
I can feel it from all the way over here. So I'm just claiming it.
Oh,
I'm not claiming it, but declaring it.
thank
Um,
you.
and so we talk a lot about vitality. That is the name of the podcast. And, we all get tired and a little worn out. So what do you do to fill your cup back up? What do you do to replenish yourself?
If we're talking about like supplements or whatever, I've tried probably everything. Like I've tried the Thrive patches and the Herbalife teas. Those are all great, and they do give you a little pep in your step. But I get tired. Really, I would say probably the biggest thing is I make sure that I get a lot of sleep. 8 hours a day, and that's just my body. I know some people can work off of 5 or 4. That's just not me. So I'm in bed by 10:30, and
Mhm.
sometimes I sleep until 7 or 8. And I know some people feel that's lazy. I could get up earlier, get more done, and I really could if I did, but that's just not me. To
Yeah, no,
me,
I
sleep is
sleep
very
is
important.
it's huge. I'm like an expert in health. I've been geeking out on it for 30 years.
Hmm.
Without clean water, good air, and sleep, like, forget about it. I don't care what you're eating or
Yeah.
drinking, like, nothing's gonna work, if you don't have good sleep. And I think sleep is the biggest epidemic that we're dealing with right now. I know, of course, we have COVID, but people are really struggling to sleep. I am amazed at how difficult people are having, how much difficulty people are having with their sleep. It's shocking the amount of ambient that's being taken. I'm not going to poo-poo, things that work for people, but I do know there's an impact to not sleeping well and then having to take sleep aids to sleep well. So no, I fully
Exactly.
embrace good sleep. And I'm so grumpy when I'm not well rested. It's just like, you
Same.
just don't want to be
Same.
around me.
One of the tricks that I use, and I've been using this for a couple of years, is to listen to brown noise while you sleep. Not white noise, but brown noise.
Hmm. What? I don't know anything about this. Share with me. What is
So
that?
I have a sleep machine. Well, it's Alexa. So I say, Alexa, play brown noise, right? But before I learned about brown noise. For many years, I listened to rain. So it's kind of like a sound in the background because such a light sleeper. So if I hear anything, if I hear a truck outside or a dog walking down the stairs with its little claws or something, I'll wake up, right? So I've
Oh,
always used something to drown those things out. But
yeah.
recently, I switched to brown noise. And brown noise to me, I feel like it induces a deeper sleep
Hmm.
for longer periods, and also your dreams are very vivid. That could
Oh,
just be a personal experience of
I'm gonna
mine,
try
but
that.
you should try
Wow.
it. So
Yeah.
Alexa, play brown noise.
Yeah. She's been asking me lately, and I'm like, Alexa, I don't want your suggestions. You're creeping me out. Like, stop. So I haven't even listened to, because as soon as she makes a suggestion, I shut her down. So
Mine is
I need to listen.
mine is talking to me. Alexa, stop.
All right, because we're saying her name.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, but that's really interesting. I mean, I'm always learning new things. And at the end of the day, it's really about your nervous system. We
Mhm.
talk about vitality. And when you think about like deep core restorative practices, I mean, everyone has different ones. Some people it's reading a book, other people it's taking a walk. I mean, for you, it's sleep. It sounds like that's been your thing. That's
Mhm.
kind of helped you to maintain this level of performance and resilience that your life has needed
Mhm.
and demanded, and giving you the strength to keep getting back up, especially in the face of difficulty, which
Yeah.
is,
There was a point in time when I first started insurance where I'd work until midnight. And that was so difficult for me because
mm,
I kept that schedule for about 6 to 8 months. And so I'd wake up at 6 to go take my son to school. So for a while, I only got 6 hours of sleep and it really took a toll. My driving force during that time was I'm only going to have to do this for less than a year while I build up my book of business. So sleep is super important because I've gone for periods of time where I didn't get that 8 hours of sleep and it really took its toll.
oh my gosh, yeah, you want to age great quickly, definitely don't sleep. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
definitely the key to that.
Exactly.
um well, I feel like, I want to say to our listeners that this goal setting practice that you were talking about is embedded in your book and your workbook, right?
It is.
Yeah.
There's a multitude of ways. It takes people just very slowly starting to do like daily goals, and then we kind of switch and we go to longer term goals. So we do weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and then it's also very important for celebration to celebrate your goals when you hit them.
Yeah, that's hard
Right.
for us
So
women, isn't it? It's like
it
never
is.
enough.
You have to give yourself permission to have these
Yeah.
celebrations. So even if it's something silly like, um, you
A
know,
bath
a bath, right?
or,
So,
yeah.
for the first time in my life this weekend, I treated myself to something I never thought I would ever afford because I'm such a TJ Maxx, Marshalls kind of girl,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All my clothes are from Amazon. I don't do designer things. I've always, it's embedded in me that it's a waste of money, right?
And it kind of is. Being from the
But
fashion industry, you're like 300+% markup.
exactly.
Mm.
So, but for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to purchase a designer pair of sunglasses. So I got Gucci sunglasses this weekend.
Wow.
I've never spent money like that, and I make very good money now.
You
Um,
must have felt so special and
I
like chic when
did.
you put them on. You were
They're so cute
like,
too.
watch out, world. Here
They're
I
under my
come.
tree. They're under my tree. It is a gift from myself to myself.
Good
So,
for you. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I feel like
Oh,
celebrations of your milestones are huge, even if
yeah.
it's small. So something it's like a bath, or you know, um, or you get to sleep in on Saturday because you
Yeah.
finished XYZ or whatever. Of course, do big ones too. Mine
Yeah.
was I wanted a pair of Gucci sunglasses for probably the last 3 years, and I
Mm.
finally went and got them.
Oh, that's so great. I love that reminder because really it's just part of the friction that we use to move ourselves forward is that ideology and false belief system that I'm not enough. It's not enough. So I have to try and harder and do
Keep
more.
going. Mm-hmm.
And that's actually very disempowering and it's extremely draining. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to have vitality, we have to seal up those limiting beliefs
We
and
do.
thoughts.
We
And
do.
when we get that energy, then we can be more creative and we can be better
Mm-hmm.
mothers and, better in our businesses.
It's full circle. That you just brought up something about being a better mom. I have felt a complete shift in my parenting in the last couple years. Being on edge about money or finances or whatever, I remember very vividly going out with a friend. We went to a carnival and he had a little girl and I had my two, and his little girl wanted to ride every ride and get every toy, and he got her all those things. Well, his mom did. And I couldn't afford it. I couldn't even afford them a toy from the vendor. And those things kind of stick with you,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
now things are just come easier. Like I don't feel on edge, and I feel like I'm just a much better mom
Yeah.
because I have a resting kind of demeanor now instead of, like you said earlier, like being frantic and things.
Right. Two quick things though before we wrap. One is this visioning. I feel very strongly about the power of envisioning something and having it come to be or to
Mm-hmm.
manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And you had talked about that as part of the formula, like you
Mm-hmm.
were set your goals and you put them in a place that you could really see. The
Mm-hmm.
second one, I think I'm forgetting, but the third one was visioning.
The second one is time blocking.
Yeah, some women feel
Right.
really limited by that, but I really love it. I prioritize time for myself, like
Exactly.
yeah, like
Yep.
just like an appointment, just like this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Yeah.
And the third one is visioning, vision boarding, and to me that's just been pivotal. I didn't find out about vision boards until 2008. It was actually a
Mm.
Spanish teacher, Dr. Cornelius, who barely taught Spanish and mostly talked about vision boards. Um, but I started doing that at that point in time, and when I first started doing it, I kind of thought it was a little silly,
Hmm.
and then I started noticing that like a year or 2 years later, I'd find an old vision board and be like, oh my gosh, I actually have that car, or I got a cat that looks exactly like that, or, little things like that. And now I do a vision board, and it's so funny because you and I were talking about this off air, but I had four quadrants. I had love, travel, career, and fitness. And career, I wrote down things like become a speaker, get on podcasts. I didn't write down a book because that wasn't in my forethought, but become published, right?
Mm.
All of those things have happened. In the love quadrant, I had pictures of like a man and a woman in Paris and a beautiful city on the water. And I recently got engaged, and we were looking at places to go on our honeymoon, and that same picture had popped up, the one that's on my vision board. I
Oh
realized,
my gosh.
yeah, I realized it's Santorini, Greece. I didn't know that when I cut that picture out, and that's where we're going. So,
I love it. But what you're saying is true. The same things happened to me. I mean,
yeah.
it's incredible.
Hmm.
And if you don't, even if you vision board isn't your thing, like you can even envision it
You can.
through writing it, but taking time to actually see it. Because
Hmm.
if you can see it, then you're actually creating it. Thought form first, words
Hmm.
and or pictures, and then it comes to, it's like magic.
It really does. And part of visioning it is not just seeing it with your eye, but also incorporating all of your senses into it. So
Yeah.
if you envision yourself like graduating or something like that, imagine yourself walking across the stage. What does it sound like? What does the crowd sound like? What does it smell like? Does it smell like an auditorium? How does the
Mhm.
diploma feel in your hands?
Yeah.
All of those things are part of visioning.
Yeah, I think emotion is actually for me with my clients over the years has been one of the biggest
Hmm.
determinants of how quickly and effectively and accurately they're able to manifest their visions is
Hmm.
the
Feel it.
emotional piece.
Hmm.
It's like how will actually you feel when you get that degree? How will it feel to walk down the aisle? And that is so powerful. How
It
will
is.
it be to find your beloved, once and for all?
Yeah.
So yeah, amazing. Was there a second thing? I think that was it. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with? You've given us so much value and so much inspiration, but is there anything else you want to add before we wrap?
Really, I guess if I could just leave a woman with one thing, it's just that we all have light within us
Mm,
to do and create and to change the world for the better. And it takes some time to discover that. It took me many years to find out. I always knew being a secretary was just not it for me, but it took me a while to find out where my niche was.
mm,
And I encourage people to just kind of do those writing tasks, those goaling sheets, those visioning, right? And it'll come. And I feel like we have so much greatness to give the world, and
mm.
and we are very powerful beings. We're made to not feel like we are, but we are. So find it. It's in you. Just find it.
Love it. Thank you so, so much, Jessie. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. It's been nice.